They say you never truly know someone until you read their text messages. I never thought I'd be that person, the one who discovers his wife's infidelity through a misdirected text. But life has a cruel way of surprising you when you least expect it. My name is Daniel, and 6 months ago, my world collapsed around me. But instead of crumbling with it, I chose a different path, one that would ultimately expose the truth and bring everything crashing down for the two people who betrayed me. As we continue, if you are new to my channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and let me know where you're watching from. If you've already subscribed to my channel, thank you. I truly appreciate your support. Now, let's get into the story. Elizabeth and I had been married for 7 years. We met during our senior year of college. She was studying psychology, and I was finishing my business degree. It was one of those relationships that just clicked from the start. Our friends called us the power couple, always in sync, always planning our next adventure together. After graduation, we both landed decent jobs in the city. I worked my way up at a marketing firm, while Elizabeth built her career as a school counselor. 3 years into our marriage, we bought a modest house in the suburbs, not too far from the city, but far enough to give us that sense of peace and stability we both craved. We had routines, inside jokes, weekend traditions. On Friday nights, we'd order takeout and watch movies. Saturday mornings were for hiking or exploring local farmers markets. Sundays were lazy days, sleeping in, making pancakes, reading books on the porch. We traveled once a year to somewhere new, collecting memories and photographs that filled our home. From the outside looking in, we had it all. And for a long time, I truly believed we did. Elizabeth was beautiful, intelligent, and compassionate. She had this ability to light up any room she walked into. Her laugh was infectious, her smile radiant. She was the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthdays, who brought soup to sick colleagues, who volunteered at animal shelters on weekends. I was proud to call her my wife, and I thought she felt the same way about me. As with many marriages, things changed over time. The passionate romance of our early years mellowed into comfortable companionship. We became busy with our careers. The conversations that once lasted until dawn became brief exchanges about household chores and bills. But I didn't think anything was wrong. This was just part of growing up, of building a life together. I never suspected she was unhappy. I never imagined she would seek comfort in someone else's arms. It was a Tuesday evening in November. I remember because it was raining, that cold, miserable kind of rain that seeps into your bones. I had stayed late at work to finish a presentation, and Elizabeth had texted earlier saying she'd be home late too. Parent-teacher conferences at school, she'd said. I arrived home around 8 p.m., soaked and exhausted. The house was dark and empty. I heated up some leftover pasta, settled on the couch, and turned on the TV, mindlessly flipping through channels while I waited for Elizabeth to return. At 9:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text message, but not from my regular messaging app. It was from an app Elizabeth had insisted we both download last year, supposedly for its better photo sharing capabilities. I rarely used it, but kept it because she said it was easier to share things between us. The message simply read, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow while he's at the conference. Missing your touch already. Last night was incredible." The sender was saved in my phone as Elizabeth Work. I stared at those words, reading them over and over, my mind refusing to process what they clearly implied. There had to be a mistake. A joke, perhaps? A message meant for someone else? But then I remembered. I was leaving for a 3-day marketing conference in Chicago tomorrow. Elizabeth knew this. She'd helped me pack my suitcase just this morning. My hands trembled as I scrolled up to see if there were previous messages. There were none. This was odd. If this was our regular communication channel, shouldn't there be other messages? Unless they had been deleted. I put my phone down and took a deep breath. There could be a rational explanation. Maybe it was a prank from one of her colleagues. Maybe she was planning a surprise for when I returned from my trip. But deep down, I knew. The front door opened at 9:45 p.m. Elizabeth walked in, shaking raindrops from her umbrella. Her cheeks were flushed, her hair slightly damp despite the umbrella. She smiled when she saw me, that same smile I'd fallen in love with years ago. "Hey, you're still up?" she said, hanging her coat. "How was your day?" I wanted to confront her immediately. I wanted to show her the message and demand answers. But something stopped me, a mixture of shock, disbelief, and a sudden, cold clarity. Fine, I replied, forcing a smile. Just tired. How were the parent-teacher conferences? She launched into a detailed story about difficult parents and problem students. As she spoke, I watched her. This woman I thought I knew better than anyone else in the world. Was she lying to me right now? How long had this been going on? Who was he? I decided not to confront her. Not yet. I needed to know more. And strangely, I knew exactly how I was going to find out. That night, I barely slept. Elizabeth curled up on her side of the bed, peaceful and untroubled, while I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. By morning, I had made my decision. I wouldn't confront Elizabeth. I wouldn't cancel my trip. Instead, I would play along with this cruel game, but on my terms. The person who had messaged me clearly thought they were messaging their lover, my wife. They had made a mistake, sending the message to me instead of her. Perhaps they had her listed under the same contact name in their phone. Perhaps they had simply clicked the wrong conversation. Whatever the reason, I now had an opportunity. I could pretend to be Elizabeth and find out exactly what was going on. It was a risky plan, potentially manipulative, possibly even immoral. But when faced with the potential destruction of your marriage, conventional morality becomes a luxury you can't afford. The next morning, I kissed Elizabeth goodbye as if nothing had changed. I told her I'd miss her. She said the same. I wondered if she meant it. "I'll call you from the hotel tonight," I said. "Looking forward to it," she replied, squeezing my hand. As my rideshare pulled away from our house, I watched her standing in the doorway, waving. I wondered if she would wait even 5 minutes after my departure before contacting him. Instead of heading to the airport, I directed the driver to a hotel downtown, close enough to home that I could return quickly if needed, but far enough that I wouldn't accidentally run into anyone I knew. I had called my boss that morning, making up a family emergency to explain my absence from the conference. He was understanding. I had never missed an important event before. Once checked in, I set up my laptop and prepared for what might be the most difficult deception of my life. I was about to impersonate my wife to catch her lover and possibly destroy my marriage in the process. I stared at the message from yesterday. Taking a deep breath, I typed a response. "I miss you too. Tell me exactly what you have planned for us tomorrow." Then I waited. The response came within minutes. "Well, good morning to you too, beautiful. Eager, aren't we? I was thinking we start with lunch at that Italian place you love, then head back to my place. We'll have hours before we need to worry about anything else." My stomach clenched as I read his words. This wasn't a one-time mistake or a recent development. This was an established affair with routines and favorite places. I needed to be careful with my responses, to sound like Elizabeth without raising suspicion. I knew how she texted, the phrases she used, the emojis she favored. Sounds perfect. Remind me which Italian place? And I want to hear more about what happens after lunch. I hated typing that winking face, but Elizabeth used emojis liberally in her messages. I needed to maintain the illusion. Bella Vita, of course. Your favorite carbonara? As for after, let's just say I've been thinking about how you looked in my bed last time, the way you sound when I touch you just right, the way you taste. I felt physically ill reading his message, but I pushed through. I needed information, not just confirmation of the affair. Who knew you could be so poetic? Wish we could meet tonight instead of tomorrow. Your husband would notice you missing on his last night home, don't you think? Tomorrow is safer. He'll be halfway to Chicago by the time I'm making you scream my name. Each message was a knife twisting deeper into my gut, but I continued the charade. Through careful questioning disguised as flirtation, I learned several crucial pieces of information. His name was Robert, or Rob, as he signed some messages. He worked at Elizabeth's school as the new physical education teacher. The affair had been going on for at least 3 months. They typically met at his apartment, but had occasionally used our home when I worked late. That last revelation sent me into a rage so profound I had to step away from my phone. They had brought their affair into our home, our sanctuary. Had they used our bed? Had they laughed about me as they betrayed me under my own roof? But I couldn't lose control. Not yet. I had more to learn, more evidence to gather. Throughout the day, I maintained the deception. As Elizabeth, I was flirtatious, excited about our planned rendezvous, and reassuring about the future. Sometimes I feel guilty about all this, I wrote, testing the waters. Don't. You've told me how distant he's become, how he barely notices you anymore. You deserve to be happy, Liz. You deserve to be desired. And God, do I desire you? So that was her justification. I had become distant? I had stopped noticing her? I searched my memory for evidence of this alleged neglect, but found none. We were busy, yes. The passionate intensity of new love had naturally evolved into something more comfortable, certainly. But distant? Unappreciative? It simply wasn't true. Later that evening, I called Elizabeth from my hotel room, maintaining the pretense that I was in Chicago. She answered quickly, her voice warm and casual. Hey, how's the conference? Boring presentations and bad coffee, I replied, forcing a laugh. How are things at home? Oh, quiet. Just catching up on that show we started. Might have an early night. Another lie. According to her lover's texts, they had planned to video chat that evening. We talked for about 15 minutes, mundane conversation about nothing important. Before hanging up, I told her I loved her. She said it back without hesitation. How easily the words seemed to come to her, even as she planned to betray me the very next day. After our call, I returned to messaging Robert. As night fell, our exchanges became increasingly explicit. He sent a shirtless photo that confirmed what I already suspected. He was younger than me, more physically fit. A classic physical education teacher with a chiseled jawline and confident smile. I made excuses for not returning similar photos, claiming I was too tired but promising to make it up to him tomorrow. He accepted this without suspicion. By midnight, I had all the information I needed to execute the next phase of my plan. The next morning, I checked out of the hotel and took a rideshare to Robert's address, an apartment complex about 20 minutes from our house. I had confirmed the exact unit number during our conversations, apartment 3B. According to our messages, Elizabeth was supposed to meet him there at noon for their lunch date, followed by their afternoon tryst. I arrived at 11:30 a.m. and waited in my car across the street, watching the building entrance. At 11:52 a.m., I spotted Elizabeth's silver Accord pulling into the parking lot. My heart raced as I watched my wife exit the vehicle. She looked beautiful, wearing a blue dress I had given her for her birthday last year, her hair styled, light makeup applied. She had clearly put effort into her appearance. For him. I waited until she entered the building, then gave her a few minutes to reach his apartment. Then I sent a message from my phone to Robert. Change of plans. Meet me at Westridge Park instead. I have a surprise for you. Westridge Park was about a 10-minute drive from his apartment. I hoped this would give me enough time. 3 minutes later, I approached his building and buzzed apartment 3B. A male voice answered, sounding confused. Who is it? Delivery for Robert Jenkins, I replied, lowering my voice slightly. After a brief pause, the door buzzed open. I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. The moment when fantasy became reality, when suspicion became confirmation, when my life would irrevocably change. I knocked on apartment 3B. The door opened to reveal a tall, athletic man with dark hair and a confused expression, the same man from the shirtless photo. Where's the... he began, then stopped abruptly when he saw me empty-handed. Can I help you? From inside the apartment, I heard a familiar voice. Rob, who is it? Elizabeth appeared behind him, her expression shifting from curiosity to shock to horror as she recognized me. All the color drained from her face. Daniel? What? How? You're supposed to be in Chicago? Robert looked between us, confusion giving way to understanding. Wait, you're... I'm the husband, I confirmed, my voice remarkably steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. May I come in? I think we all have a lot to discuss. The next 30 minutes were surreal. The 3 of us sat in Robert's living room, me in an armchair, Elizabeth and Robert on opposite ends of the couch. No one touched the coffee he had awkwardly offered. How did you find out? Elizabeth finally asked, her voice small. I took out my phone and showed them the message. The one that had started it all. He texted me by mistake. I'm guessing he has both of us saved under similar contact names. Robert checked his phone, his face paling. I have you saved as Elizabeth and him as Elizabeth's husband. I must have clicked the wrong conversation. So all those messages yesterday, Elizabeth began. were to me, not you, I confirmed. I played along. I needed to know the truth. What followed was a painful, raw conversation. Elizabeth confessed that the affair had begun 4 months ago, shortly after Robert started working at her school. What had started as innocent flirtation had quickly evolved into something more. They had been meeting 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes at his place, sometimes at ours when she knew I would be working late. Why? I asked, the question that had been burning inside me since that first message. If you were unhappy, why didn't you talk to me? Elizabeth wiped tears from her cheeks. It wasn't that I was unhappy exactly. It was, I felt invisible. We became so comfortable, so routine. You stopped looking at me the way you used to. And he looked at you the right way? I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. It made me feel alive again, she admitted, desired, important. Robert, to his credit, seemed genuinely remorseful. I knew it was wrong, he said. I told myself it wasn't my marriage to worry about, but that was just an excuse. I learned that Robert was recently divorced himself. His wife had cheated on him, ironically enough. He had moved to our city for a fresh start. Now he was the other man in someone else's failing marriage. What were you planning long term? I asked them both. Was this just about sex, or was there more? They exchanged uncomfortable glances. We hadn't really discussed it, Elizabeth said. It was more about the present than the future. But you told him I was distant, that I didn't notice you anymore. You created a narrative about our marriage to justify your behavior. It felt true at the time, she whispered. Did you ever love me at all? The question escaped before I could stop it. Of course I did, Elizabeth said, fresh tears spilling onto her cheeks. I still do, Daniel. This wasn't about you not being enough. It was about me feeling something was missing in myself. We talked for hours. Painful truths were revealed. Accusations were made. Tears were shed. Hers mostly, though I found myself fighting them back more than once. Robert eventually excused himself, saying he thought we needed privacy. Before leaving his own apartment, he apologized to me directly. For what it's worth, she spoke highly of you, even during everything. I'm sorry, man. I really am. Left alone with Elizabeth, the conversation turned to our future, if we even had one. What happens now? She asked, her voice hoarse from crying. I took a deep breath. Now, we go home, separately. I need time to think. In the weeks that followed, our lives unraveled in ways I couldn't have imagined. Elizabeth moved into her sister's spare bedroom while I remained in our house, surrounded by memories and questions. We agreed to try marriage counseling, a last-ditch effort to see if anything remained worth saving. Those sessions were brutal, forcing us to confront not just the infidelity, but the cracks in our foundation that had been there all along. Elizabeth had felt neglected, though she admitted she had never clearly communicated this to me. I had grown complacent, taking our relationship for granted. We had both stopped putting in the effort that a marriage requires. But understanding the problems didn't automatically fix them. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to fully restore. Meanwhile, the affair had consequences beyond our marriage. Someone at Elizabeth's school, a particularly vengeful administrative assistant who had always disliked Elizabeth, discovered the relationship between her and Robert. She reported them both to the principal for unprofessional conduct. While technically not against school policy since neither supervised the other, the revelation created a scandal. Parents complained about the moral example being set. The school board got involved. Eventually, Robert resigned to avoid further controversy. Elizabeth received a formal reprimand and was transferred to another school in the district. Her reputation, once sterling, was tarnished. The work she loved became a source of shame and discomfort. She withdrew from her colleagues, her friends, even her family, who had always adored me and were devastated by her betrayal. Robert moved away a month later, taking a position at a school in another state. He sent me a letter before leaving, a heartfelt apology that acknowledged the pain he had caused and his hope that Elizabeth and I might somehow find healing, either together or apart. I never responded. Today marks 6 months since that rainy November evening when a misdirected message changed my life forever. Elizabeth and I finalized our divorce last week, an amicable but somber end to what had once been a beautiful journey together. In the end, we both realized that too much damage had been done. The trust was gone, And without it, love alone wasn't enough. We had become different people, shaped by pain, regret, and difficult realizations about ourselves and each other. I've moved to a smaller apartment closer to my office. Elizabeth sold our house and used her share to start fresh in a neighboring city. We stay in occasional contact, birthday wishes, necessary logistical communications about shared assets. But the intimacy we once shared has been replaced by polite distance. There are days when I wonder if I made the right choice by playing along with that initial message, by deceiving and manipulating to uncover the full truth. Would ignorance have been kinder? Would confronting Elizabeth immediately have given us a better chance at reconciliation? I'll never know. But I do know that the truth, however painful, has set me free in ways I'm only beginning to understand. I'm dating again, cautiously. I'm more attentive now, more aware of how easily connection can fade if not nurtured. I'm learning to communicate better, to voice my needs and concerns before they become insurmountable problems. As for Elizabeth, mutual friends tell me she's in therapy, working through her own issues and patterns. She's rebuilding her career and her life. Despite everything, I find myself hoping she finds happiness. The affair ruined us in many ways: our marriage, our home, parts of our careers, our innocence and trust. But from those ruins, we're each constructing new lives, hopefully wiser and more authentic than before. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But what I did wasn't really about revenge. It was about truth. And truth, I've learned, burns hot enough to destroy everything in its path. Yet somehow, from those ashes, new beginnings are possible. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in my story, whether as the betrayed, the betrayer, or the third party, know this: secrets have a way of surfacing. Text messages get misdirected. Lies become unsustainable. The truth eventually emerges. But also know that survival is possible on the other side. Not the same life you had before. That's gone forever. But perhaps something different. Something honest. Something real. That accidental message destroyed the life I thought I had. But maybe, just maybe, it saved me from living a lie. And for that, strangely enough, I'm grateful. Last week, I received a text message from an unknown number. It simply read, "I hope you're doing well, Daniel. I think about you often and wish you happiness." I knew who it was from, even without a name. I stared at those words for a long time, memories flooding back, both good and painful. After much thought, I replied with just 3 words: "You too, Elizabeth." Some stories don't have happy endings in the traditional sense. Some wounds never fully heal. But we learn to live with the scars, to build around them, to find meaning in the breaking and the mending. That misdirected message revealed a painful truth and set off a chain of events that ruined what we had. But in that ruination was also liberation, for both of us in different ways. Life goes on. People adapt. Hearts heal, albeit imperfectly. And sometimes the end of one story is merely the beginning of another. And that's the end of the story. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. I'll definitely read and reply to your comments. See you soon in the next video. Until then, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.